Hey everyone, it's Kyle from Regrettable Props. We are covering the shins, hands, and ab templates for the Mandalorian costume. I will say I was rushing this costume, so it was done for Halloween. During this process, I did not have templates and was scratch building. However, when you guys do pick up the templates if you want, I will have templates made for the shins, hands, and ab plates. You see me trying to jerry-rig some parts through trial and error, and I will be saving you guys some of the process during that. So some parts have voiceovers and others I'm just going to kind of let them play for themselves and show you my working process of solving some of the hiccups of the design templates. So I'm just going to kind of let this go on its own, work through like an accelerated pace of a time lapse, and when I do have speaking parts, I'll let that take its place. And I will come back in at the end of the video. Thank you guys. So what I have here now is a 2mm sheet of foam. It is roughly 12 inches wide by 18, so 12 by 18 inches. That is a little too wide for what we need, but what we're going to do first is we're going to glue it probably an inch in set to this top ring for the left shin armor, and then we're gonna wrap this around and then cut off the excess. So I'm just gonna jump to it being glued. So I got it all, like I said, glued in about an inch inset, and then I did a slight taper cut on one side, and then I'm just gonna overlap and glue this fingernail width over, not quite an inch, and then glue it. And then what I'm going to do, once I have this glued, is use a heat gun and kind of compress this so it has the wrinkled texture of like leather. So I'm going to jump cut to this being glued and then show you guys me using the heat gun to get the shape and look we're wanting. Only thing I would say is maybe use a larger tube close to almost the inside circumference of the shin, because as you can tell, it billowed in pretty close and my leg ain't that skinny. Quick correction I want to do. This top part, like I mentioned, is 3.5 inches wide. The one down at the bottom is roughly also 4 inches. I mentioned using Dremel or a box cutter and heat gun to open this up to get the extra detail. However, based on the pictures, there's actually an extra layer that I need to add on top to get the appropriate look. So I'm just going to cut an extra 2mm strip. I just cut this out about 2.5 inches wide. This part's 3.5. There we go. So for the right shin, it's actually like you're making a shore trooper shin. So for the blue foam, it's about 10 millimeters in thickness. I'm cutting a slight beveled on one side, not going to the middle, slightly off cantered, and doing the same for the other side. And at the very end, there is a slight cut about 45-degree angles in towards that center ridge. And on the back, I'm just going to do a slight slit and put in some hot glue so it stays tilted out. That crazy uncleanness to it gets sanded with a Dremel and sandpaper. Then we're cutting out the top detail near the kneecap section, and that's just going to get glued on with hot glue as well. Also 10 millimeters in thickness. And jumping along, that other blue strip that's going along the back of it is just 2 millimeters in thickness. And then I cut out some little pyramids out of foam using that 10 millimeter foam, and they get glued on towards the top. All these sections, like I mentioned earlier, I was crafting on my own during the process, and you guys will have templates for you to follow along with. Now we're going to be cutting out some thin 2 millimeter foam strips that are going to be going around the top and bottom of the shin. They are to replicate leather straps. The top one will be having the Bandolier bullets. I just used Nerf gun darts, larger ones, because that's what I had readily available. If you have a 3D printer and you're able to make the actual shells that hit the Mandalorian gun uses, great, put them there. Here you can see what's been done so far, and I'm just needing to tack down some of those problem areas more of hot glue, and me indicating how I'm going to be putting those Nerf guns, gluing them down first, and then going to be using 2 millimeter foam to wrap around, leaving some space to show both ends of the dart. If you guys are able to 3D print your own shells, then cover them up for the length that you need to. For this ab section here, I use 2 millimeter foam and 5 millimeter foam. The 5 millimeter foam is a black. The two different types of blue are 2 millimeter. I did not have templates during this process. Now, if you guys are following along, I would actually advise not using 2 millimeter foam and making the raised detail sections also out of 5 millimeter foam. This being that you can Dremel and kind of shape them to actually look like abs and give rounded edges to those detail pieces along with the outside edge of the base plate for the ab. But I did not do that, so learn from my mistakes. Use the 5 millimeter foam instead of 2 millimeter, and I'm just going to kind of do a time lapse showing my process here. Hand plates are really simple. Use 5 millimeter foam, 2 millimeter for detail. Trace them out, cut some V-grooves on the back so we can have some angled edges without there needing to be any seams. I did not do extra 2 millimeter foam detail for the whole outlining. I would advise doing it. I included it on a template in my speed run of trying to do this for Halloween. I did not do it to save on time. So do that for your build.